If you've ever had a boss who made your life miserable for absolutely no reason, you are going to love this story. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and get ready, because this is one of the most satisfying workplace revenge stories you'll hear today. This happened about 19 years ago, back when I was working at State Street Bank in Boston. When I got the job offer, it sounded impressive. I was told I'd be joining a high-visibility mini-project team, the kind that worked on complex financial operations with senior leadership watching closely. You know the type. The kind of role that makes you think, okay, this is it. This is my career breakthrough. I walked into that building on my first day feeling cautiously optimistic. Clean shirt, fresh notebook, that nervous but excited energy buzzing in my chest. And then I met Paula, my new manager, and as it turned out, one of the worst human beings I've ever worked for. Paula had this presence, not the inspiring kind, the suffocating kind. She was the type of manager who could look at a perfectly good report and somehow find 17 things wrong with it, none of which actually mattered. At first, I told myself, okay, she's just detail-oriented. She's thorough. This is normal. Yeah. No. Within weeks, it became painfully obvious that the job I was sold was not the job I got. Instead of working on high-level financial problems, I was basically compiling reports and chasing down data from people who were clearly terrified of our team. The whole place felt like a mushroom farm, kept in the dark, fed, well, you get the idea. And Paula? She ruled it like a tiny, miserable kingdom. One of my main responsibilities was a weekly report on oil warrants out of Nigeria. Now, quick context. A warrant is essentially an agreement to buy a commodity at a fixed price, no matter what the market does. And in this case, the numbers were serious. There was an option floating around to buy oil at $30 per barrel, while market prices had spiked to $90 per barrel. If someone exercised that option, the financial hit would be massive. So, accuracy mattered. A lot. And here's the thing. My numbers were always right. Always. But every single week, like clockwork, Paula would call me into her office, close the door, and absolutely rip into my report. Not about the risk, not about the analysis, about formatting, wording, spacing, tiny meaningless details, week after week after week. I'd sit there, hands folded, jaw tight, feeling that slow burn of frustration crawling up my spine, while she picked apart sentences like she was defusing a bomb. After a while, something inside me just snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, coldly, because the pattern was obvious. It didn't matter what I submitted. She was going to tear it apart anyway. And one afternoon, while digging through the network folders for reference material, I found something interesting. An old project directory from years earlier, before Paula had a team, before she was the critic-in-chief. These were her reports, her formatting, her language, her templates. And as I clicked through those files, a slow smile spread across my face, because suddenly I had an idea. If Paula hated my formats so much, why not give her something she couldn't argue with? Something familiar, something hers. So I went all in. I didn't just tweak my report, I rebuilt the entire thing to match Paula's old work exactly. Same structure, same phrasing, same cover letter tone, line for line, word for word. The only thing I changed were the numbers and the current data. When I finished, I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. My heart was already beating a little faster because I knew what was coming. Report in hand, I walked into Paula's office for the weekly review. She barely looked up at first. Then she started reading, and I watched it happen in real time. Her eyebrows pulled together, her lips tightened, her posture stiffened, and then she exploded. "What happened to the old format?" she snapped. I kept my face completely neutral. Calm, blank, professional. "I thought since you didn't like what I was doing," I said evenly, "I should try something different." Big mistake in her eyes. Because Paula went off. She said this was worse than before, said it might be the worst submission I'd ever given her. She went on and on and on, and I just sat there, silent, waiting, because I knew exactly how this was going to end. Finally, she stopped and hit me with the question, "What were you thinking when you made these changes?" And that was my moment. I slid the printed documents across her desk. Nice and slow. "Well," I said calmly, "I used the formatting and language from the reports you created a few years back. I found them on the network and followed your structure exactly." Silence. Paula looked down at the papers, then back at me, then back at the papers again. And I swear, I have never seen someone's brain short-circuit in real time like that. Her face just froze. Completely dumbstruck, I kept my tone polite, professional, respectful. "So, if this format is bad," I added gently, "should I go back to the one I was using before?" Another long pause. You could practically hear the gears grinding in her head, because she had two choices. Admit her own work was terrible, or back down. She chose the only move she had left. She signed the report. Quickly, tightly. "They're fine," she muttered. "Send them as is." I tilted my head slightly. "Just to confirm," I said, "because less than a minute ago you mentioned they were basically unreadable." Her jaw clenched. "They're fine," she repeated. Oh, that was satisfying. But here's the best part. I didn't stop there. Oh no, because I had already downloaded and saved all of her old templates locally. Every version, every variation. And over the next few months, we played a quiet little game. Every time she started nitpicking again, I'd subtly switch to another one of her old formats. And every time, she'd start tearing into it. And every time, I'd calmly remind her exactly where the format came from. Eventually, she caught on. One afternoon, she asked very carefully if I had copies of her previous work. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "I created SOPs using your past reports. Seemed like the logical thing to do." She didn't have much to say after that. A few months later, I found a better opportunity and left. No dramatic goodbye, no exit speech, just quiet satisfaction, because I didn't need to win loudly. I'd already had my moment. And honestly, to this day, that look on Paula's face still makes me smile. Reflective wrap-up, 15 to 20 seconds. Sometimes revenge isn't about shouting or slamming doors. Sometimes the most satisfying justice is simply holding up a mirror and letting someone see themselves clearly for the first time. If this story made you smile, even a little, hit that like button and tell me in the comments, have you ever had a boss like Paula? And if you love satisfying revenge stories like this one, make sure you subscribe Savage Justice, because the next story might be even crazier.